The M1 MacBook Air sucks. Or does it? So a couple of months ago, my wife started to really complain because her laptop had gotten really slow. Close to Black Friday, I decided to start shopping around to get her a new PC. And my son had been trying to get her into doing some gaming, like Elder Scrolls Online and some other stuff. And I said, let's see if we can get her a laptop. I was able to find one at a price that wasn't terrible and that performed the way I wanted it. Now, at the same time, I saw that the M1 MacBook Air was running for $799. Now, I had been thinking about experimenting with the MacBook. I know there are emulators and stuff like that out there, but I've got Mac users that play online with me on Dungeons and Dragons, and they have issues, and I've been contemplating getting one for testing my maps and things for games that I run, as well as I've really wanted to use Final Cut Pro, give it a shot, and the only way you can do that is by having a Mac. So I went ahead and took the plunge. Now, I am, or at least have been, an avowed lifetime forever PC user. I've been building PCs for decades, literally. I've been using PCs going all the way back to the DOS days. First also implementing Windows 3.1, moving forward. I've been a dedicated PC user. And I admit, I've even gone about giving my friends who have Macs a hard time because I've always considered them to be overpriced pieces of hardware. The M1 chip piqued my interest. And that's probably the biggest reason that I decided to take the plunge and try the MacBook Air. I mean, for $799, you're talking the price of a halfway decent laptop. That's a PC. And I wanted to see how it would perform. First, let's talk about the MacBook itself. Construction on this thing is awesome. The case, let's face it, unlike a lot of the laptops that we buy that are PCs, you squeeze them, they have a lot of give. You're almost afraid sometimes to push down on it that you might damage the screen. The keyboard, I mean, seriously, there shouldn't be give or bounce in there on the case, but there is. A lot of PC laptops are really not built that well. We have to be honest with ourselves. This thing is solid aluminum and it does not give. Squeezing it on the keyboard, anything else. The trackpad. I've always been a trackpad hater. The trackpad on this thing is huge, and it's also extremely responsive. One of the supposed downsides are the input ports. You got two USB-C connections, which people complain are not enough, but let's be honest, if you're using it like a laptop, you're probably not hooking up anything more than the power supply, maybe a keyboard or mouse. I haven't found it to be a problem. There's also a headphone jack on the opposite side. I've got plenty of 3.5 millimeter headphones, including gaming headsets, wired earbuds. They work well with it. The 256 gigabyte drive is not huge, but it holds what I need it to hold. I never planned to do editing on that drive, knowing that I was going to move to 4K files. So the drive itself houses my operating system, Final Cut Pro, Affinity Photo, Discord for chatting with friends, the Microsoft Office suite, and a couple of other programs. So out of 256 gigabytes, I have 160 gigabytes left, and that's sitting there waiting if I decide to use any other programs. Now, I'm not going to be gaming on this because I don't consider it a gaming machine. I do still have a PC dedicated to gaming, streaming, and things like that. For extra storage, I have a 1 terabyte SSD where I keep and edit all of my video files in Final Cut Pro, as well as any photos, thumbnails, or anything else that I do in other programs. It works extremely well, and it's significantly cheaper to do that instead of spending a lot of money, which I do think the extra drive space that Apple charges is way overpriced. I have a 1 terabyte NVMe drive inside an enclosure that I put together for $150. You can't get an extra terabyte for that kind of money through Apple. I recommend doing that or buying a terabyte SSD for about the same price, and you'll get really good performance for working with those files. Now, I also keep a 1 terabyte HDD for storing old files, because I usually keep archives of those things, and keeping photos and other things that I don't want on the SSD that don't need the speed. Now, because of having the external drives, as well as an external monitor that I run at the same time that I have my MacBook Air running, the 2 USB-C ports are not sufficient. So you have to get a dongle. Yes, you might have a few extra cables there, but it does give me the ability with the dongle that I have to put a SD card in there straight from my camera to pull the files in, a micro SD card from my Tascam DR10L audio recorder, as well as several USB slots and a couple of USB-C slots if I need those as well. Now, I don't charge through the dongle. I always use one USB-C slot specifically for charging. The other one goes to the dongle, and that goes straight to any external devices that I have plugged in. Now, I also keep my MacBook Air on a stand to keep it up in the air just for cooling purposes. I've never really felt it, even when it's on my lap, heating up. It's zippy, it's super fast, it stays cool, and another beautiful thing, no fans, no noise. Unless you're playing audio, there's no noise coming from this thing, which is unheard of. Let's talk about battery life. I've taken this thing over a 2-day period, watching video, cruising the internet for 5-6 hours at a time at night, and after 2 days, I still have battery left. I do go ahead and charge it, but if that's all I do, I don't need to charge it every day. Now, for stuff like editing videos inside of Final Cut Pro, I usually keep it plugged in so it keeps fully charged while I'm working in programs like that are very intensive and can drain your battery down, but it really doesn't. I've forgotten to plug in the power, gone through and edited a couple of videos, and I still have better than half of my battery left. You wouldn't be able to do that and spend a couple of hours editing on a laptop PC without it being plugged in. That thing would definitely die. So the battery life is amazing on the MacBook Air. Now let's talk about video editing. I do edit now in Final Cut Pro. I used to use WonderDraft Filmora, and I do like Final Cut a lot more than what I was using. And I knew I would. It gives you a lot more timelines that I'd be able to play with, a lot of different options, more transitions, things that I can do with the video to make it interesting. And I'm still experimenting with it. I'm also experimenting with motion to try to start working on creating motion graphics and things to add to videos. All of these things work really well. And if we're really going to compare, this thing will render a video just as fast or faster than the PC that I use that I built last year with brand new top of the line specs. I'm amazed at how this thing performs. There are a few other things on the Mac that are really nice. If you're already in the Apple ecosystem, stuff like your text messaging automatically going there. Your FaceTime is automatically set up. Everything transitions from your iPhone over to the MacBook Air, which makes life really convenient. It's a really nice machine, and it does make things convenient. But this machine is a little beast, and I am actually shocked and surprised at how well this thing performs. While I used to sit back and say, Macs suck, I will take a step back and say the M1 MacBook Air is an awesome little machine. For the money, whether you get it at a good price like I did at $7.99, $8.99, even at the price of $9.99, this thing can kick the ass of comparably priced PCs. And there is no lie in that. For video production, photo rendering, all those types of tasks, this thing does an awesome job. I am amazed at the power that's in this machine. All that being said, I'll never go 100% in the Mac ecosystem and give up using a PC. These are not designed for gaming. game makers do not make games for these. There are some, but they're very small amount, and a lot of them don't work as well as on a PC. Maybe down the road, now that Apple has a machine with this kind of power, AAA game makers, other game makers will start getting into the fray and making games that function on these Macs, but it's not going to happen in the immediate future, so I won't be moving over. Also, I use my PC for streaming. I can't see myself trying to hook up a bunch of external stuff on this, or if I ever went with like a MacBook Pro, I can't see myself trying to stream through it. So I'll still always have a PC for gaming, streaming, and some of the other things that I use it for. When I run my games through Virtual Tabletop, this thing doesn't really work that well for that. So I'll always have a PC for those tasks. For the fun stuff, gaming, it's all going to be PC, let's face it, for a good while. In the end, it was a frivolous purchase, but I'm really happy that I did it. This thing, it's a pleasure to work with. I've added the keyboard, the Magic Mouse. I'll be honest, I've gotten to where the gestures and stuff on the mouse, I kind of find myself trying to swipe on my standard mouse on my computer, and I really miss some of the things that you can do on it. It is a totally different machine, and I use the two machines for totally different purposes. Except when I'm web browsing, then I start missing features that the Mac has, because it is designed for that type of usage. If you are an average user, you want something that's probably going to last 5 to 10 years, and you want something simple that integrates with your iPhone and everything else that you have in the ecosystem, go out and get the M1 MacBook Air. It is a great machine. I hate to say it, I love this thing. After years of Mac hate, I do love my M1 MacBook Air. That's it for today. Hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, remember to like and subscribe down below. Have a happy new year, and we'll catch you next time.